the police have issued a detailed list of the damage caused by violence since May 3rd. As many as 175 people have been killed, 32 more are missing, and over 1,108 have been injured. 96 bodies are still unclaimed in hospital mortuaries, and over 9,000 cases have been registered and 300 people have been arrested. Although 4,786 houses were set on fire and 386 religious structures vandalized, barely 1,359 of the looted firearms and 15,050 ammunitions have been recovered. Is this why the state is still struggling to return to normalcy? Before we get into the debate, let's hear IGP IK Moiwa to find out what these numbers tells us about the situation in Manipur, and then we will go to our panel of experts, Rami Niranjan Desai, author and scholar, Northeast Region, Professor Prasenjit Bishwas, Professor of Philosophy, Northeastern Hill University, and Suhas Chakma, Director, Rights and Risk Analysis Group. But first, let's listen into the sound bites of IGP Manipur, and then we will start this discussion.
In this very challenging situation and times that the state of Manipur is in, we can also reassure the public of what all the police department, along with the CAPF, that is the BSF, the CRPF, the Assam Rifle, and even the army, and along with the cooperation of the various public also, and also the civil administration is trying and round the clock and trying to bring some form of normalcy and a way back to a peaceful kind of a situation. So at the same time, we want to give some statistics about the various things that have occurred so far. That is, regarding death, 175, and injured 1,108, missing 32, arson case 5,172. This includes like sometimes one whole village is burned, then each house will be considered a case of arson, and accordingly also sometimes, now though we have amalgamated them, each cases of house burning is considered a separate FIR, and that's how we initially had a lot of FIR also. And then regarding the houses that are burned is 4,786. We combined together with the religious structure, that is 386, out of which 254 churches and 132 temples were vandalized or affected by arson. Regarding the arms and ammunition that were lost, we have recovered 1,329 arms, 15,050 ammunitions, and 400 bombs. We have bound down under preventive arrest 37,286 persons during this entire crisis. Right now, the convoy movement is moving smoothly on National Highway 37, and as just briefed by our IG Zone 3 Nishit, National Highway 2 also has been opened from today.
It has been moving for a few days.
Yeah, it has been moving gradually from a few days before also, but today there is the volume has increased, and we have destroyed 360 bunkers. And as per the latest inputs from IG Zone 2 Kabib, today the various barricades that were there from Hokak Chau Ikai to Kangwai, those all have been removed, and we'll be sharing you the photographs of the completely cleared, smooth roads. that was taken today. We'll be sharing with you. So those barricades were issued in the last week and all those things. But somehow with the initiative of the SP Bishnupur and under the guidance of the concerned IGP and the cooperation of all the security forces deployed there, all the barricades has been removed from Hokakchao Ikai to Kangba. This is the update that we want to give. So these are all the things that we want to give as update for today.
We have I would like to highlight that we have a deployment of a paramilitary CAPF at Haraothel, Kotrud, Kharab Thadoi, then Kadangban, Bethel, and similarly up to Sinda. We have an axis, we have a deployment, and I personally went and interacted with the security forces and the civilian on the valley side and also the hillside when they interacted. Whatever the shortcomings we found, and we briefed them, and some of the measures we have suggested to the security personnel also to what any miscreant coming in here across any side they are moving. There should no armed miscreant should try to vitiate the peaceful atmosphere. So we hope that things will definitely improve as our IG officer has said. We are working further also on this direction.
So what is extremely interesting right now is, and I would like to tell our viewers that my colleague Kartikeya Sharma has joined us. Apart from Kartikeya, Professor Prasenjit Biswas, who is Professor of Philosophy, Northeastern Hill University, have joined us. Sir, welcome to News9 Live. And also Suhas Chakma, Director, Rights and Risk Analysis Group, have joined us. Kartikeya, first I'll come to you and then I'll go to Professor Prasenjit Biswas and then to Mr. Suhas. For the first time, Kartikeya, police have come up with the real figures, because earlier there were a lot of claims and counter claims about how many people have been killed, how many churches have been vandalized, how many people have been injured. What do these figures tell you? 175 people killed and counting. Thousands of people injured. And then, more than 98, more than 96 or 100, unclaimed dead bodies. What do these stats tell you? Kartikeya.
There are a couple of things. I think what Bharatiya Janata Party's government, BJP's government in Manipur is trying to do, or what the administration is trying to do, is setting the record straight. When we say you hold a press conference, what do? You hold the record straight. Now people will not be able to build narratives that these many people have been killed, these many weapons have been taken away, these many weapons have come back. They have set the record straight. This is what has happened. This is the entirety of destruction. This is the cache of the weapons taken away from the militants. This is the cache of the weapons which is taken away from the administration. This is the casualty list. So BJP is trying to set the record straight on Manipur, and for them to hold this press conference is of immense importance. Generally, I would have assumed that this press conference would have taken place on a daily basis. It didn't take place on a daily basis for whatsoever reason which the state government thought is correct. So I'm not going to get into that. But for the state government to come out with this detail is trying to set certain records straight that, boss, this has happened. Any debate, any conversation will be around these factual parameters only. What was happening in the information theatre of Manipur, or I would say larger rubric of narratives, was that people were coming out with inflated numbers. Everything was inflated, everything was a hyperbole, everything was more than more, and everything was contested by communities across. Every ethnic community would have a different take. So they are trying to put the record straight. I don't know how much it is going to help in context of law and order, how much it is going to help in context of stabilizing the situation. But when you come out with the facts, at least there is an element of transparency. I welcome that. I would say it should happen more frequently in terms of police briefing, in terms of media briefing. It's a good thing to happen.
It's a good thing to happen. Professor Prasenjit Biswas, if you go into the figures of dead, I mean, people know that yes, 175 people have died and 101,108 have been injured. But if you also go into the details, like 5,172 arson cases reported, and 386 religious structures, 254 churches and 132 temples were vandalized. Because this was also very hotly contested figures, people saying that less number of temples have been destroyed and more number of churches have been burned, and various narratives were being built around this. How do you respond to these figures, Professor? Do they convey the kind of terror Manipur has been living in for the last 4 months plus?
Yes, Brijesh ji, you are very, very right in saying that the narratives will be much more focused now, and the hell that Manipur has lived through in last 5 months is partly reflected, in these figures, because figures do not tell you everything. The human tragedy, the kind of cruelty, the logic of retaliation, the total absence of the state from preventing violence, all these are, something that is latent in these statistics. So therefore, these statistics have to be read in a certain context. The context is that probably the government has ensured now that there is a certain kind of a ceasefire. There is a certain lull in the process of conducting violent activities by any of the sides. Very recently, Chief Minister has said it's not a clash but a conflict. And conflict will take some more time to be resolved. Now, you see, if it is a conflict, and if there are these statistics that bear the mark and the intensity of the conflict that Manipur has gone into, then these figures actually do not show that it's going to stop so soon. Rather every part of this figure tell us a story, and the story will have a counter narrative. The story will have a plot and a counter plot, and the plotters are very much still active. They have to be disengaged, and the conflict needs to be de-escalated. So the de-escalation process may be facilitated by presenting a mirror before everyone, by showing them the goriness, the tragedy of the conflict that it has left the mark of. But if that can resist people from engaging into more and more conflict, if that can create a kind of restraint on the minds and hearts of people, and people start looking at each other not as enemies, but as how one side has victimized the other side, and how every side should stand for the victims, and try to bring back the semblance of peace, semblance of humanitarian work. The bodies that are lying unclaimed, that's a major concern as far as I'm concerned. Government has to find out to whom these bodies belong to, the identity of the people.
Exactly.
If these bodies are badly mutilated, then it will be very difficult to have an identity. So the work of identification, and then the work of compensating people who have lost everything because of violence, has to be started, in a very systematic manner, in a systemic manner, so that those who have suffered arson, and those who have suffered death, those who have suffered any other kind of displacement, all these can be tied in a single thread, and a package can be worked out which is deliverable.
Okay.
I think this is what would be my response to this.
Okay.
Brijesh.
Mr. Suhas, welcome to News9 Mediaverse. There are two interesting things, as the professor was talking about. I'm coming to you, Kartikeya. The professor was talking about, one was this unclaimed bodies, because there was a lot of furor raised over it. There was a lot of protest about, giving them a burial, and it led to protest to a level where, the Home Ministry had to intervene, meet the warring faction. A and B, the report also says, the press conference also says that security barricades from Fauga Chao Ikhai in Bishnupur district to Kangwai in Churachandpur district have been removed.